Am I the butthole for not allowing my daughter to spend Christmas with me and my new family? I, 46 female, am the mother of a 24 years old woman from my first marriage, and 12 and 10 years old boys from my second marriage. When I was married to my first husband, he was unemployed almost all our marriage. We lived in a house his father owned. His father paid our bills, he bought us the car we drove, he sent my husband money to take care of our family, etc. I was young, stupid and in love. That is my only excuse for living like that. When my daughter turned 5, I started pushing my husband to work. I myself got a job. He didn't want to. Things escalated and ended up in us getting divorced. He got full custody while I got visitations every other Saturday. His dad hired a good lawyer. I couldn't do that. I also had to pay child support. I used to work a full-time and 2 part-time jobs to afford my 1-bedroom apartment as well as the child support payments. A year after our divorce, my ex married a new woman. There was a lot of child alienation from them, and sadly I couldn't afford to take them to court again. By the time my daughter turned 14, she was calling me by name and calling her stepmom mom. I tried my best to hold on to my kid. I went to all the event I could go to. I planned fun days with the limited funds I had. Even when I couldn't afford to turn on the heat, I still made sure to get her a Christmas gift. Sadly, by the time she turned 16, she no longer wanted to have anything to do with me. I took them to court, but they did nothing. And the last time I saw her, she said some very awful things to me. I was defeated, but I decided that I no longer had a daughter, since that is literally what she wanted. I moved away, met a good man, married him and had 2 wonderful kids. Last year my daughter reached out. She was sorry. She said that she wanted to reconnect. I was hesitant and resentful, but I still talk with her once a week. Suddenly she asked if she could spend Christmas with us. She wanted to get to know her brothers. I told her that we were not in a stage where I could allow that. It got heated, but I told her that I could not trust her with my kids, and that I was still not 100% sure that I wanted our relationship to become more. She says that I am that I am punishing her for things she had no control over, that I know what she told me and how she reacted to me was a direct result of her father's manipulation. Am I the butthole? Edit. Since a nice Redditor brought it to my attention, my kids are adopted. She is my only biological child. I am just used to saying that I had kids. They are technically my late Sill's children, but I raised them these last 7 years. You're the butthole. I was young, stupid and in love. That is my only excuse for living like that. Your daughter was also young and surrounded by manipulative people who turned her against you. You were able to snap out of it and work hard to make a life for yourself. Your daughter, who hurt your feelings when she was literally a child, seems to have snapped out of it as well. But you offer her no grace. This is just sad for both of you. Your daughter is an adult now and is trying to connect to you. Please don't throw that away. The real AHs here are your ex, the stepmom, and the grandfather. I don't think anyone's the butthole here except the dad, since he manipulated the daughter into hating her own mom. Am I the butthole for refusing to pay for my boyfriend's vodka after smashing it? I, 26 female, have been with my boyfriend Sean, 25 male, for about a year and a half. It's been great, but I let him know from the outset that I was a recovering alcoholic. He had no problem with that, and he still drinks with his friends, but won't do that in my presence. It still bothers me that he drinks, but it's his life. I can't tell him what to do. Fast forward to last Sunday, and we're at his apartment. I come in, and he's in the middle of making pasta sauce, and there's a large bottle of vodka on the counter. I didn't say anything about the bottle, but he saw me staring at it, and he told me it's for the sauce. Pasta sauce he's made me at least twice a month for the entirety of our relationship. He said he's told me from the beginning he does that it cooks away, but I think that would be something I would very much remember, and I got a little angry. I knocked the bottle off the counter and went to my mom's. He's called and apologized for triggering me, and that he was being brainless, but he wants me to pay for the broken bottle, which he says was about an $80 brand. I told him that I wasn't under any circumstances going to pay for something he's been lacing my food with for years. We haven't really talked since, and my mom wants me to just go ahead and buy the thing to make amends, and I'm still refusing. Am I the butthole? Edit. I didn't smash the bottle. I pushed it off the counter and it broke. I didn't throw it. Edit 2. Alright, I get it. I'm going to get him $80 worth of stuff to make up for it. But I really don't appreciate being called violent or abusive. I've never hit him once, and I think that's a pretty rash assumption. You're the butthole. Adults use their mouths to communicate. Hey, I'm not comfortable with you cooking with alcohol and having alcohol in my presence at all. I thought you were aware of that and would like to respect my preference. You let me know likey me go smash smash. You're the butthole. There is no alcohol remaining in the food, so he was not lacing your food. Of course you can ask him not to make that dish in the future if it triggers you. Still, you destroyed someone else's property and you need to make restitution. You're the butthole. I understand how you feel about it, but breaking the bottle was an inappropriate action. You've obviously not been set back in your recovery by consuming a trace amount of alcohol and cooked food. If he really thought this was okay, he wasn't being malicious. You can set this as a boundary going ahead if you make it through this conflict, but you were out of line to break the bottle. As a general rule, when loved ones upset us, breaking things, punching walls, or otherwise physically venting temper in destructive ways is not a good thing. Am I the butthole for saying that my husband's reaction to a miscarriage is excessive? I need to know if I'm being reasonable or heartless here. My husband, male, 27, has a long-time friend who we'll call Bill Dash, male, 31. The two of them met when my husband was 16, and from the way they always tell the story, they've been inseparable ever since. Bill is now married and lives nearby with his wife. They announced their pregnancy a while ago and my husband was absolutely overjoyed for them. He would visit it often as he could, and it seemed like he was single-handedly funding the baby's wardrobe and nursery, honestly. Unfortunately, they suffered a miscarriage just before the 6-month mark. Bill and his wife were understandably devastated, and so was my husband. I got it, he was watching his best friend go through something unimaginably painful. He was often gone for long periods to time comforting Bill because not only had he suffered this loss, his marriage didn't seem to be holding up very well either. The miscarriage occurred at the end of September. Now, this is where I might be a huge butthole, so I'm in desperate need of judgment. I completely empathize with Bill and his wife still needing time to recover, but my husband is also still acting as if this is fresh. Not just in the way he's still comforting his friend during his free time or excusing himself to take hours-long phone calls, but the intensity of his emotions. I caught him crying about a week ago, and when I asked him what about, he got angry with me and said it should be obvious. I was surprised to be met with such malice over a simple question, so I tried to gently suggest that maybe therapy would be beneficial. He was feeling this loss like it was his own, and I didn't find that very healthy. In fact, I had been concerned about him since mid-October if I was honest, but had no idea how to broach the subject. The conversation that followed didn't go well, and my husband said his emotions were perfectly normal and that maybe I was just lacking in empathy. He's been avoiding me since. Am I the butthole? Reading the title, I was prepared to say that you are the butthole, but having read the whole post, I agree with you. Your husband is acting like he actually lost a baby. Being empathetic is one thing, but this does seem a bit over the top. Either there's more to this story, and I hope there isn't, or he does need to speak to a therapist to work out why he is so enmeshed with his friend. Not the butthole. Not the butthole. Your husband is unusually enmeshed here. Like weirdly so. I don't think his relationship with Bill is entirely platonic. Have you seen Bill and his wife recently? If you've been distancing yourself, I'd say it's time to go when your husband does, so you can judge just how things are between the three of them. Whatever it is that's bothering your husband, it's clear he's grieving much more than a friend's lost baby. Not the butthole. Therapy ASAP. You sure this wasn't husband's baby? Secret donor? Affair? That does not seem normal. Am I the butthole for leaving my husband for a Christmas trip to Hawaii with our kids? Every year my family spends our Christmas in Hawaii. We've done it every year since I can remember, and it's a fun family tradition for me. After me and my husband had kids, we had to reorganize our family Christmas plans because his parents wanted to see our kids for Christmas, so we decided that we would celebrate Christmas with his parents on New Year's and go to Hawaii for actual Christmas. This is the system that worked for us until last year. Last year his dad passed away around this time of the year and it hit him and his mom hard. For obvious reasons we didn't go to Hawaii. This year we planned out what we'd do for the holidays early. We'd do Thanksgiving with his mom, and we'd do Christmas in Hawaii since me and the kids missed out last year. Things were going well until right before our flight. About a week out, he said he was unsure. He said that he thinks it might be better that we stay. He said he really wanted to spend Christmas with his family and felt like his mom really needed it. I was unhappy about this. We made a plan, we saw her last month, and we already had my dad buy our tickets and hotel, so it would be incredibly unfair to me, him and our kids for us to not go just for his mom, who we'd see a few days after we got back anyways. We got into an argument about it and proposed that me and the kids can go to Hawaii and he can stay there with his mom. He decided to do this, but he was very clearly upset that I wasn't going to forego my family's Christmas tradition and seeing my family just for his mom. So now I'm in Hawaii watching and wrangling the kids by myself. While he's home alone. He have said texted me or responded to me much. When I call him he only talks for about 3 minutes before wanting to get off the phone with me and talk to the girls. Am I the butthole? I think not the butthole, because you stayed home the first year after his dad passed away and you had agreed to the Thanksgiving/Christmas arrangement for this year. He changed his mind after all the arrangements were made. However, I think you and your husband need to talk about this more. Where are he and his mom in their grieving processes? How does he envision things working in future years? Does he want every Christmas with his mom now? Does he want to do alternate Christmases? Or is this year just particularly hard for both of them? Also, is there an option to have your mill join you in Hawaii since she's on her own? Edit. Yes, I have read Op's comments, which were posted after mine. I may not agree with her entire perspective, but it doesn't change my thoughts and suggestions above. No buttholes here. I feel for your husband. He lost his dad a year ago and his mom is spending Christmas without her partner. With plane tickets bought and hotels arranged, a week out is not enough time to change plans. I agree with you about not wanting to cancel and taking the kids to see your family. I do think you need to cut him some slack here though. The holidays can be really hard for people who have lost loved ones recently. I think you're all doing your best in this situation and I don't think there is any right answer here. Hopefully, your husband can join you next year, and maybe you could have a conversation about that when you get back. Info: why not just bring mom to Hawaii? I'm probably going to get downvoted for this, but not the butthole. If he had suggested 6 months ago, before the trip was planned and paid for, that you spend Christmas with his mom and adjusted the family holiday/Christmas schedule accordingly, then that would be different. But he waited until 1 week before, after you'd already spent Thanksgiving with her and the whole trip was paid for, to suggest canceling your side of the family's holiday and do Christmas with her as well. I completely understand that he's grieving, but pushing through it a bit to support your family and honor the people you have left is just a reality of long-term grief. There are no guarantees in life. What if one of OP's parents isn't still here next Christmas and they miss their last opportunity for this special week? Bottom line, I understand and commiserate with his feelings, but I think casually expecting his whole family to cancel an amazing trip that was already paid for was unreasonable given the time frame, and at the very least, he shouldn't punish you for still going when he didn't. Am I the butthole for refusing to help new coworkers while helping old ones? I hesitated for a couple of days on whether I should post or not, since I know that a few coworkers are active on this community. They were the ones who showed it to me. So I will be very vague. Sorry. I have been working in this company for a number of years. I am not Christian, nor am I American. That is to say that I do not mind working on Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter or the 4th of July. On the other hand, I come from a religion that has 3 major holidays, and those I prefer to not work on. When I first started working here we came to an arrangement. I would handle the office work during their holidays, but since I can't do it all on my own, they will have to still do some stuff from home. But at least they will not have to come to the office. BTW, there are 5 people in my team. In exchange they handle all my work for me during my holidays. Our managers were okay with this arrangement, and they would turn a blind eye to some of us not coming to the office for days on end. For Christmas I would usually take on their work from the 20th to the 28th. Fast forward to earlier this year, 2 of my older coworkers retired, but they trained their replacements before leaving. They brought up the deal with them and they seemed on board. When it was time for the first religious holiday that I was going to be off on, they refused to do their share of my work. After some back and forth, they say that it isn't fair that I get to do absolutely no work during my time off, while they will still have to work from home when it comes to their holidays. We tried to explain that it is easier for 4 people to cover a single person's work, while it is impossible for a single person to take on 5 people's work. They still said it wasn't fair. I tried talking with my manager, but he said he couldn't do anything, since this was a very informal arrangement, and he couldn't force them to participate. That was fair, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't frustrated. Thankfully the other 2 team members said that they are capable of doing the work, and that was that. Last week, I was arranging with my 2 teammates on how to manage the workload for their week off for Christmas. Since it was the work of 2 people, I told them I could swing it without bothering them for the whole week. The new coworkers overheard and were like, 2 people? What about us? I told them straight away that I will not be taking on any of their work, that they did not help me for the last 3 holidays, and I was not helping them now. I also asked why they were surprised, considering I did not do any of their work previously. All they could come up with was, but this is Christmas. They went to our manager, and he told them exactly what he told me. Now they are angry. Apparently they promised their families a week of free time, and one of them even booked tickets to spend Christmas with his family in another state. So am I the butthole? Clearly not the butthole. They reneged on the deal first, so it seems like you are just following through on what they wanted. Maybe they will rethink things next year and realize that the deal was incredibly generous. Not the butthole. Can't believe they were surprised. Treat people how you want others to treat you is a fairly fundamental truism. You did. They were hoping for a free ride when it suited them without helping out at all. Not the butthole. They didn't like the arrangement and chose to jump out. Fair. Dunno why they expect you to uphold your part of the bargain really. Fellow non-Christmas person, we commies exchange gifts on New Year Eve, and this is exactly the reason why I stopped taking Christmas deals. Just too much drama. You are absolutely not the butthole. The entitlement of these people is galling. I'm thrilled your boss is on your side. Am I the butthole for refusing to take my nephew out unless he could eat junk food? I, 27F, have a brother James, 29M, who is married to Emma, 26F, and they have a kid Josh, 6M. I also have another nephew from my sister, in her 20s but was not really involved, Danny, 7M. I am very close to Danny and I see him every Wednesday, as I have Wednesdays of and his parents work. It is a great opportunity for quality time. Every Wednesday I take him to a small local waffle place for lunch. Recently James and Emma asked me if I would mind watching Josh when I had Danny on Wednesday. I said sure. This was about a week ago when they asked, and I am meant to have them both the next Wednesday after Christmas. Well, yesterday I had a text from Emma, just saying, thanks for offering to watch Josh, but then she went on to let me know that she was going to prepare a packed lunch for Josh. I said that would not be needed, as I take Danny out for waffles on Wednesday for lunch and we would all eat there. She asked me to send her the menu and I did. She said she did not feel comfortable with Josh eating there as the food there was very unhealthy and she did not see any options she would be okay with Josh eating. She said that she would send a healthy packed lunch for Josh to eat while me and Danny ate the food from the restaurant. I explained that I was sorry but no, I was not okay with that, as I thought it would be unfair on Josh to watch his older cousin eating lots of nicer food while Danny had to have a packed lunch, and that I also did not think it would be fair to cancel our normal plans. Emma told me to stop being rude about her food and that it was not her fault myself and Danny's parents allowed him to eat unhealthy food. James also got involved saying I already agreed and I should respect his wife's wishes. I said I was sorry but I can either watch Josh and take him to have a nice lunch with his cousin or I would not take him at all. Just to confirm, there is no medical reason for Josh's diet. Emma is very serious about health and fitness and at family events she is normally very strict about what she will eat and allow Josh to eat. I've also seen her be quite controlling about James' diet, but I assumed she would make an exception her son to have one meal with his cousin. But maybe I am being too judgmental. I just feel these rules are unreasonable and pretty harsh, and I do not want to enforce them. So, am I the butthole here? Not the butthole. Having the child watch you both eating at the restaurant is ridiculous. Not the butthole that is some next level controlling behavior. Good for you for pointing out how weird it is for a kid not to have one unhealthy meal. Don't give in or you're tacitly supporting it. The poor child. Not the butthole. First, you're absolutely right that you can't treat one child and not the other. That's a recipe for all kinds of resentment. Second, you're entitled to stick to your plans. If Emma doesn't want her child participating in those plans, she's essentially forced your hand. You simply can't take Josh. Am I the butthole for uninviting my soon-to-be MILF from my wedding? I, 27 female, am engaged to my fiance, 45 male, and we plan to get married in July. I have 2 kids with my late husband. My soon-to-be Mill, who I will refer to as Mill, does not know this full context as I am a private person and am not overly close with her. He passed when I was 23 and I really only discuss his passing once I am incredibly close with someone. I have only spoken to Mill at a handful of holidays and never had a conversation that extended far beyond the basics. Now to get into this, we recently hosted our first Thanksgiving. I felt very accomplished and was excited to share this moment with my soon-to-be family. The only issue being that I had totally forgotten the mashed potatoes, which seemed to have Mill in a very pissy mood. Thankfully, fiance's sister offered to go to the store to buy some instant mashed potatoes, to which I was very grateful. She asked me to check in on her youngest daughter, who was in an upstairs bedroom with my kids and had been very quiet recently. Moms of Reddit know this is never a good thing. I, of course, agree. I go to check on them and find them fully engrossed in Encanto. Left sitting at the table downstairs were my soon-to-be Mill, Phil, Bill, fiancé, and most importantly, Sil's oldest daughter, 15 female. As I make my way downstairs I do note the silence at the table but don't think much of it. After the dinner, however, while everyone is leaving, Sil's oldest daughter pulls me aside and asks to speak to me. I ask her if everything is okay and she explains that while I was gone Mill made a comment something to the note of how she didn't get why fiancé would get with someone who is already used up and that running around with someone like that would ruin his reputation among men, along with another comment that she said she wasn't comfortable repeating. She said she wouldn't have felt right if she hadn't told me. I thanked her profusely, honestly completely in shock at what I had just heard. Mill had already left at this point. I am a very confrontational person because I believe it gets drama over with. I called her and asked her if it was true and she got really quiet before admitting that it was. She said something along the lines of, "I am glad you know how everyone feels now, I was getting tired of hiding it." When I started to cry she replied, and this is a direct quote, "You act like a tramp, you get treated like one." In a moment of anger I uninvited her from my wedding. My fiancé is very upset and is threatening to leave if I don't fix this all now. He and our friends are all calling me the a-hole, and many have been ostracizing me. I am open to criticism but I really don't think I did anything wrong. So, am I the butthole for uninviting my soon-to-be Mill from my wedding? Your Mill called you a tramp on Thanksgiving and your fiancé wants you to apologize? You have a fiance problem. This relationship is already over. Figure out how to protect yourself and get out. I would uninvite myself from the wedding. That sounds like a horrible situation. I'm so sorry. I don't understand how your fiance thinks you're the butthole. If he doesn't have your back now, he never will. I'm so sorry, OP. Not the butthole. Not the butthole, and you have a fiance problem. He should have stood up for you. Hell, the only person there with the integrity to stand up for you at all was a 15-year-old. Think about how this woman is going to treat your children. They deserve better. You deserve better. You are absolutely not the butthole. The things she said were beyond horrible. Your fiancé let this woman say horrible things about you in your own home, then he had the audacity to be mad at you for your reaction. I hope you kick him to the curb and find a man who not only loves you but respects you. The only people who aren't in this situation are you, your kids, and the 15-year-old. You deserve better than a 45-year-old who still trips over his umbilical cord. Am I the butthole for telling my future mother-in-law that if she keeps pushing for a child-free wedding I'm going to convince her son to elope? My fiancé and I met at university. I was there on scholarship and he was a legacy. For those of you that might not understand what that means, I will try and explain. A legacy is a student that may or may not meet the qualifications to get into a certain university. However, their family has a long history with the school and as alumni donate to the endowment or contribute in some other way to the school. He is actually a charming and intelligent person and didn't need family connections to get in. He is a kind and generous person. I could spend this entire post talking about him, but that's not why I'm here. His family is fancy. They want us to have a huge fancy wedding. And his mother is harping on about it being child-free. My family is not fancy. And I love all my little relatives. I'm from Colombia. I grew up calling anyone that I was even remotely related to that was close to my age primo/prima. Cousin. Anyone older was tio/tia. Uncle/aunt. I have so many little cousins and nibblings that I want at my wedding. One of my dreams has already been a wedding picture where it's just me in my wedding dress just surrounded by kids. But my future mother-in-law keeps insisting that we should be child-free for the reception. I am sick of it. We are visiting his family for Christmas and we just had another discussion about the wedding. I finally lost it. I very politely informed her that if I heard one more word about how she didn't like that we were planning our wedding to include children that I would convince her son to elope. He is on the spectrum and isn't really looking forward to a huge wedding anyways. He says he would be happy with a courthouse wedding. He is equally happy with what we are planning. He is not happy about his mom trying to dictate to us plans for a wedding she isn't paying for. We are paying for everything ourselves. She is in the other room being comforted by her daughter and other daughter-in-law. All three of them said that I was being cruel to threaten to not have a wedding for her eldest son. My fiancé's dad agrees with us that it is our choice. Before anyone asks, my family could have paid my university tuition and board without breaking the bank. We just aren't fancy. Am I being in butthole like they said? Not the butthole. I'm guessing she was going to use the wedding to flaunt wealth and invite social friends to impress. If you are feeling magnanimous, tell her if she wants to throw an adult-only engagement party or something else you'll be happy to attend on her dime, but the wedding is non-negotiable. Not the butthole. She has no say in your wedding. Even if she was paying for the whole thing, she would not get to dictate who you invite. I have some experience with a just no mother-in-law. You are making a good decision to set and enforce boundaries early on in your relationship with her. Not the butthole. Many people forget the wedding is about the bride and the groom period. You may want to head over to r/justnormal to see what else is bound to head your way down the road. Am I the butthole for wanting to pull my daughter out of her daycare because they made her miss recess? My daughter, too, just got light-up princess heels from a family member. She loves these shoes and wants to wear them everywhere. She wore them to daycare on Tuesday, and when I picked my daughter up, she was wearing a pair of socks from the school instead of her shoes. They asked me to send acceptable shoes in her backpack if she wants to wear her heels. When I got home, I checked the school's dress code and there was absolutely nothing about shoes, except that kids have to be able to comfortably play in them. My daughter is very comfortable in her heels. She wears them to the park, the grocery store, pretty much every time we leave the house, and she never complains, so I didn't think there was anything wrong with her wearing them to school. She wore them again to school yesterday. Shortly after I dropped her off, I got a call from her teacher saying I needed to drop off a new pair of shoes, but I was already at work so I couldn't get her a new pair. When I picked her up, it was the same thing. Her heels were in her backpack and she was wearing socks. The teacher told me they couldn't let her out for recess because of her shoes. I was livid when I was told that she couldn't play at recess because of her shoes. First of all, she's worn those shoes to the park, so I know she can play in them. Second, it's not her fault that I couldn't drop off a new pair of shoes, so I don't see why she has to be punished for it. I want to pull her out of this daycare and find a better one, but my husband is refusing because he has kids from a previous marriage, went there and they all love it. I personally think they're treating my daughter unfairly and that we should look for a better daycare. Am I the butthole? Edit, these are the shoes. You're the butthole. More than likely it's an insurance thing. If she's going outside on the playground, her feet have to be covered. So if she loses a toe in her cute heels, it's your own damn fault. Edit, I don't care if they're Cinderella light-up slippers or the old-school slip-on jeweled plastic heels. If they're not appropriate shoes for playing outside on the playground, then send shoes that are. Sneakers or something else with a hard sole. Are you asking for her to get injured? Or should she just sit inside during playtime because you're too damn lazy to bring some other shoes? Those Cinderella jellies aren't going to protect her feet. You're the butthole. They asked you to send alternative shoes if she wears heels, you didn't. It doesn't matter that she hasn't been injured in little heels, the possibility of it happening is much higher than in proper playground footwear, sneakers. They're looking out for her safety and protecting themselves from a medical lawsuit. Pulling her out isn't helping her understand that rules are there for a reason. On top of this, there are foot development issues to putting a toddler in heels. I would research it before I let her wear them daily, especially because light-up princess heels are even less likely to offer proper support than other heels. You're the butthole. Send your kids with proper clothing to any daycare or school. You were already told to send other shoes in her backpack to wear to recess. You deliberately did not. You caused her to miss recess. Daycares don't want to be liable for a kid who falls and gets hurt in their heels because their parent refused to pack other shoes. It's okay if you want to watch her as she is at a park, but keep in mind that you are only watching her and any other child in your family, while the staff at the daycare has to watch over many other children at once, and don't have an adult to every child. The heels become a liability then, and no place in charge of a child's welfare wants the risk of an added liability. Edit, it's also just improper footwear. Heels are not play shoes and should not be used as them long term. Little kids grow out of shoes so fast, and hers are rapidly growing confined in heels? That is not good for foot development. Edit 2, those aren't even shoes. Those are toys. You know, dress up, make-believe, not something she should wear and play in and walk in for hours. Those have no support for her feet. You're the butthole, but by all means change your daycare. I'm sure the employees will be glad to see you go. Am I the butthole for being rude to a girl who had my water bottle? Throwaway, since my account is followed by people I know, and people from my college, and I don't want to make a whole deal out of this. I, F20s, am a senior in college. I carry a water bottle everywhere with me, that is very recognizably mine, and that I have stickers on. Also, my name is on the bottom. About a week ago, I forgot it in one of the cubbies in our college gym. Many people leave stuff in the cubbies long term, so it's not like this was a bad thing, and when I realized a few hours later and went to get it, it was gone. I was pretty bummed. But I figured it was my fault, I'd left it, and someone had stolen it. Today, I was walking into the library, and I saw my water bottle, sitting on a table. I went to go grab it, but when I picked it up, a girl sitting at the table said, "Hey, that's my water bottle." I said, "No, it isn't, I accidentally left it at the gym a week ago. It was mine." She tried to grab it back from me, told me I was stealing her water bottle, and that she would call the campus police on me. She had a few friends with her at the table, who were getting annoyed as well. It was at this point that I got pissed. I asked her where she'd gotten the bottle from. She said off of Amazon. So, I tilted the bottom towards her, and said, "Then why does it have my name and number on the bottom?" She rolled her eyes at me and told me to screw off, that I didn't need to be such an butthole about it. I took the water bottle. A friend was with me at the time, and said that I made a big deal out of nothing, and that I probably embarrassed her in front of her friends, and that I should have just gotten a new water bottle instead of being in butthole since I had left it in the gym. The first place. That got me wondering if I really am in butthole here? Not the butthole. Good job for embarrassing a thieving Wait, what? You should have just let a thief keep your stolen water bottle, and gotten yourself a new one? You embarrassed a thief by proving they stole your property? You didn't make a big deal out of this. The thief did, when they didn't fess up when first asked. They had plenty of opportunity to admit it was not theirs, no harm no foul, I guess, but they latched on to the idea that it was truly theirs to begin with. Also, losing something is not equivalent to giving it up. It's still your property, Lamau. Absolutely not the butthole. Am I the butthole for telling my friends I told you so after their car was broken into at our house last night? Some friends were in town yesterday doing Christmas shopping and they stayed the night. When I helped them with their bags, I saw that they left stuff in their car. I told them to bring it in, but they insisted it was fine. I told them again to just bring everything in because I read that there were some vehicles broken into at the mall this past week and they told me it was fine. I convinced them to bring in a few of the bags from the backseat and they moved stuff out of the back window. I tried taking a few more bags inside, but they told me not to and then they laughed and told me I was paranoid because I live on a quiet street. Later my friend's husband told my husband about how I pestered them and made jokes all night about me needing a night patrol, whatever the frick that means. He seemed to find it hilarious, but it was pissing me off. When we got back home I told my friend that she should just bring everything in and I would help her. She told me not to worry about it and then had the nerve to ask if I was okay because I seemed stressed. I woke up this morning to my friend's husband yelling for her. Their car was broken into and everything is gone. Luckily most of the stuff is replaceable, but his work laptop and phone were both taken. When he got off the phone with the police he ranted about us not having security cameras and that we should have told them what the situation was like in our neighborhood. He went on and on all morning. My husband and I were both apologetic and I really do feel bad. When they were leaving he said they wouldn't be back until we got security cameras and that he doesn't know how we can stand living somewhere so risky, and I just snapped. I told him we don't need security cameras because we aren't dumb enough to leave crap in our cars overnight, and that I told them to bring their stuff in and that they are lucky more stuff wasn't stolen because I made them bring it inside. He seemed shocked and just got into the car while my friend hugged me goodbye. Earlier I texted my friend to ask if they made it home all right and that I feel awful that their car was broken into. She responded that they made it home and that these things happen. An hour later she texted me a long message about kicking someone when they were down and that real friends would have offered to replace their stuff. I am stunned. I hadn't even considered giving them money. We don't live in an unsafe neighborhood, but it's common sense not to leave stuff in your car. I'm confused how they think we are responsible. I do agree that I shouldn't have snapped, but I felt like I was being blamed when I already warned them. My husband doesn't think it's a big deal and finds what I said funny, but my friends are clearly angry and am I angry too, so I'm having a hard time assessing if I'm in butthole. Wait, they left a computer in the car. You warned them and tried to help them. You didn't break into their car. Maybe if they had a car alarm or cameras in their car, that would have been helpful. What would cameras do? Show thieves running away with the stuff with smiles. Yeah, a computer. Husband now needs to explain to his employer how he had the work computer stolen, and if the company looks at the report and sees it was in the car overnight, I'm sure they'll be thrilled. Friend's car insurance or personal property insurance is who should pay, not you. Edit for typo. Not the butthole. Offered to replace their stuff? No. That would be appropriate only if you had insisted it was perfectly safe and fine to leave their things in the car. Usually it's best to avoid "I told you so," but since your friends were basically blaming you for their own stupidity, which you had warned them about, it's perfectly warranted in this situation. Am I the butthole for making her split the bill with me on our anniversary? Our anniversary was last week, which is inconvenient as it's near Christmas. I spent a lot of money on my nieces and nephews' gifts, so I didn't want an expensive anniversary. To my GF's defense, we don't really go out to eat and she does most of the cooking, which saves us money. But I make $65K a year and she makes $110K, but we split things half-half. At the beginning of our relationship I wanted to split things proportionally to our income, but she refused, saying we weren't married so she isn't splitting things. I feel like she is pressuring me to get married to get her to pay her fair share. Anyway, she picks the restaurant and it's very expensive. She gets a $60 steak and I just get a salad because it's expensive. She also had 2 cocktails and I just had water, so what she ate came to $80. We share a dessert and when the bill comes the waiter asks together or separate. I say separate, but I'll pay for dessert, and she looks unhappy but doesn't say anything. She waits until we get into the car and then gets mad that I didn't pay for the dinner. I say I had a lot of present to pay for and she picked a very expensive restaurant without telling me it was expensive, so she should pay for herself. She says it's our anniversary and we hadn't eaten out all month for this special occasion and I shouldn't have bought such expensive toys if I couldn't afford an $80 meal. I get mad and say my nieces and nephews are family and kids, so I'm spending on them, but she is an adult and can afford to pay for herself. She gets angry and yells that I'm an adult so I can cook for myself from now on. Since then she hasn't made dinner for us and only makes her share, eats it and ignores me. Not the butthole, but you both seem to have a very transactional view of this relationship. You basically accuse her of trying to pressure you into marriage in order for her to pay her fair share, and she, despite insisting on splitting everything equally, thinks you should have been the one to pay the anniversary dinner. Do you two even like each other? You're the butthole just for starting off the post by saying you view your anniversary as an inconvenience. She didn't demand expensive jewelry, she didn't want a weekend trip. She wanted a nice dinner, which, of course, she had to do the emotional labor to plan and pick the restaurant because you likely couldn't be bothered to make plans yourself. You say you think she's pressuring you into getting married, so that what? She can give you more of her money to spend on everyone but her, while continuing to cook every night to save you money and labor? You want her to pay her fair share, yet what are you bringing to the table to make it fair for her? I hope your next girlfriend makes less money, puts forth less effort, and spends all her money on family instead of you, maybe then you'll feel it's equal. I was gonna say NTA until your last line where your GF is expected to cook for you? Why? She brings more to the table financially, what other chores does she do? Why is she responsible for feeding you and for funding whatever else kind of lifestyle you want to have just because she makes more? You're the butthole, because you see your GF as a meal ticket, you don't want the commitment and it appears you resent her and see her as being manipulative/financially holding you hostage, but the reality is you just don't like your GF and don't want to be with her, you like the lifestyle that she is providing for you. Edited for spacing so the first judgment isn't made the judgment. Thank you Redditors. You're the butthole. First off, why do you make your relationship about money? You both make great money. You act like you make $20K a year. The dynamic of a working relationship is 50-50. You both put in an equal amount of effort, including paying for the bills. She's not pressuring you into getting married. She's setting an equal boundary between the two of you. Also, your girlfriend cooks for you every day. The least you can do is pay for an $80 meal for her. If you can't do that for her, then you care more about money than your relationship. Am I the butthole for opening my fiance's mail and calling her a liar? I, 28 male, and my fiancée, 31 female, have been together for about 4 years, and we have been engaged for about 6 months. We met at a restaurant where we were both bartenders, and during this time, I was also working towards a graduate degree. My fiancé continues to work in the service industry, and I have taken on a new role since graduating and do fairly well. I have always had an idea about how much money my fiancé makes since we have the same job. However, my fiancé also sends money to her family, and I never knew the specifics, for example how much money was being sent and for what. I have lent her money in the past when we were just boyfriend and girlfriend, and she always paid me back quickly. I emphasized to her that if she ever needs any help financially to please ask me first. Because she has asked me in the past, and paid me back when she said she would, I had no reason to believe she was in any financial trouble. Now that we are planning a wedding and going to be spending the rest of our lives together, I am more curious about her financial situation. I ask her things like how much money she has saved, if she has any debt, etc. She hates having this conversation and really tries to avoid it. Eventually I get a rough ballpark estimate from her, but she will never show me proof if I ask for it. She is so uncomfortable with the conversation, and it always ends with me still not being sure how financially secure she is. Fast forward to today. I open our mailbox and see a letter from her bank that is addressed to her. I decide to open the letter, and the letter states that her recent credit request has been denied due to current or past delinquency on one or more of her accounts. I text her and ask her if she applied for a credit increase and got denied, and she said no. I then respond with a screenshot of the letter, and she gets really upset. She is accusing me of being disrespectful towards her for assuming she was in financial trouble when she has come to me for money in the past, and she said I never should have opened her mail since she never opens mine. She says she isn't in debt and everything is fine and that she didn't request anything from the bank. I asked her to send me a screenshot of her credit card statement to prove she wasn't in debt, and she refused, saying I was already all up in her stuff. The conversation ended with me pretty much calling her liar since the letter she got in the mail clearly states otherwise. I know the letter was addressed to her, but since we are getting married, her financial situation affects me now too. I feel bad for hurting her feelings, but I believe this is information I need to know, and I feel like she is deliberately hiding something from me. Am I the butthole for opening my fiancé's mail and calling her a liar when she refuses to show me proof of her financial situation? Edit, it's pretty hilarious that everyone was telling me I was a felon. Technically I broke the law, but she's not calling the police for me opening her mail lol. I do appreciate the feedback from everyone though, I had no idea this would get so many comments. I apologize to her and we're going to go over both of our finances together after the holidays. Thanks to everyone who weighed in. You're the butthole for breaking the law, breaking her trust, and generally just going about this as wrong as you could have done. However, this right here. I ask her things like how much money she has saved, if she has any debt, etc. She hates having this conversation and really tries to avoid it. Eventually I get a rough ballpark estimate from her, but she will never show me proof if I ask for it. Is a huge red flag. This will become partly your problem if you get married. Neither of you need to get married right now. Call it off and work on some stuff. Everybody sucks here. You shouldn't be opening her mail without permission, and she shouldn't be so weird and defensive about her finances if you're about to be married. You're the butthole. Opening someone else's mail is a federal crime. If you don't trust someone's word, you shouldn't get married. But you sure as crap don't open their mail. Am I the butthole for not inviting my childhood bully to my wedding, resulting in our moms not being friends anymore? Okay, I'll try to keep this as short as possible even though I know it will be long and will use fake names for people. I, 26 female, recently married my husband, 29 male. My mom, 50 female, Has been friends with Penelope, 50 female, for over 20 years, and we also used to live in the same neighborhood. Penelope has 2 daughters, Megan, 28 female, and Clara, 22 female. As kids, Megan was always terrible to me. And I don't just mean typical childhood drama. She would tell me how when she grew up she would move away and never talk to me again because I was stupid and she hated me, how I was such a loser and nobody liked me, and even pulled nasty pranks on me. I had a crush on a boy once and she wrote a fake confession letter from me to him making me out to be a creep and gave it to him, and from that point on nobody in my grade talked to me for several years because they all thought I was a freak. She really wanted to be popular and found all of this amusing. At first when we were little my mom forced me to play with her thinking she'd grow out of it, but as preteens when things got worse she stopped forcing me over to Penelope's and Megan and I distanced. It was always Megan's dream to move to a big city and work for a famous magazine company, and she did just that. She comes back to our city once in a while to visit her family, but in all of these years she has not once contacted me. No texts, no calls, nothing. I don't think her mom ever realized the extent of how terrible Megan made me feel growing up. When I got engaged to my now husband, of course my mom invited Penelope. Penelope kept asking if I had invited Megan and Clara, but why would I? I hadn't heard from either of them in years. Penelope kept pushing it, and at first my mom suggested just forwarding the invitation to them, but I didn't want to. They hadn't been part of my life and hadn't even congratulated me by text or anything when their mom told them about the wedding, and I doubted they would even come. So, here is where I think I might be the butthole. Penelope got very upset with my mom and me and didn't come to the wedding and stopped contact with my mom since. My mom has tried reaching out to her, but she ignores my mom. My mom said it's okay and isn't upset with me, but I can tell she is still hurt by the loss of her lifelong friend. Also, I definitely had the accommodations to invite Megan and Clara. Should I have just invited them anyway? Also, before anyone asks about Clara, we were never close since she was always a bit younger than me as kids, though I did babysit her sometimes. But just like Megan, I haven't heard anything from her in years. I'm not going to bother reaching out to them when we were never close, especially with how Megan treated me. Not the butthole. If Penelope is willing to end a 20-year friendship over something like this, then I question how strong it was in the first place. Not the butthole. Your mom's friend is also a bully and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Not the butthole. Penelope has such weird claims. Even if Megan wasn't a bully, I don't see why you would invite someone you haven't spoken to in years to your wedding. Am I the butthole for calling out my mom after she excluded my girlfriend and the kids from our snow globe tradition? Throwaway, fake names. I've, 23 male, been dating my girlfriend Ellie, 31 female, for almost a year. Ellie has 2 kids, F6, M4, and we get along really well. I have a big family and it's pretty much impossible to have one Christmas event and expect everyone to make it, so my parents host their celebration the week before. My mom has a tradition with the kids, us, where she gives mini snow globes. The event was last Saturday, and as usual mom pulled us aside and gave us this year's snow globes. Now the snow globe giving extends to partners, and I was expecting Ellie and the kids to receive one. My brother's wife Jane, F2728, was there and mom gave her and her 5-year daughter snow globes. Mom's reasoning is that she doesn't know Ellie well enough to be included, but I said being my partner should be enough and she should have at least included the kids. Ellie came to the event with me and she was upset when she saw mom didn't get one for her or the kids. I got kind of annoyed and told mom she gets snow globes for Jane and her daughter, considering my brother wasn't her son, we're half brothers. If that's the case then she's excluding Ellie for no reason. Mom got defensive and started getting mad, and we ended up leaving early. I just don't think what mom did was right. These aren't expensive and she could have got 3 more so Ellie and the kids could be included. I'd get if it was just for us, but she gets them for partners and kids too. I got a few texts later from my sister, saying I'm creating issues and we disrespected my parents and Jane, and should apologize. Am I the butthole? You're the butthole. Your mom doesn't draw the line the same place you do. Her children and their spouses and her grandchildren get globes. Dating partners do not. Should have asked mom before the event who she was planning on including. Almost a year. You're the butthole. Less than a year is no benchmark to suggest stability, and you can't compare it to someone who is married into the family. I also wouldn't be surprised if they're a little stunned at that age gap. WTF are you doing with a 31-year-old with 2 kids? You need to bail. You're the butthole. Jane is married to your brother. Ellie and you have only been dating for a year. You're not engaged or married. Even if you don't plan on getting married, this isn't a serious long-term relationship yet, and her kids are not your mother's grandkids. Mom gets to decide who her family is and who isn't. Making that crack about your brother not really being her son was a low blow and does not make you look good. Show that you're in it with Ellie for the long term, and let the relationship and closeness grow organically. Forcing it like you did this time will just make mom and the family dislike Ellie and her kids. And you. Edit, just saw your comment that your brother has died, and Jane is a widow. So for your mom to give Jane and her kids snow globes is kind and generous, and shows that she still considers them a part of the family. You're a giant, gaping butthole. You should be ashamed of yourself. You've hurt so many people and you can't see it.